So here we go, part 2 of my Olympic diaries. It's the 5th of January 2012, beginning of the year, for a show that will be at the end of July, so 7 months to go. Today is the big presentation for the large group of contractors and subcontractors who will be involved in the project. Danny bounds forward to welcome everybody in the room, all big smiles and big energy and positive vibrations, and the audience applauds him warmly. He explains the setting of the green and pleasant land and its epic transformation into the Industrial Revolution, complete with 700-foot-tall chimneys rising out of the ground. He waxes lyrically about the 400 hospital beds for the NHS with a dance routine performed by real doctors and nurses. And he explains the musical jamboree that will celebrate our country's cultural history in the next act. He misses out on the helicoptering Queen and on Mr. Bean playing Chariots of Fire, as both of these need to be kept as a surprise for as long as we can. Danny presents his show in such splendid terms that it sounds like it would be the best thing that anyone's ever seen, and from their reaction, his audience today clearly believes it. This is the first time anyone has seen our plans for the ceremony, for a ceremony that we've been working on for nearly a year, and as it's the first semi-public presentation of the show, we're all keen to see their reaction. They clearly love it. But the problem for me is now that I know everything that's going on in the background, I cannot bring myself to buy into Danny's optimism quite as easily as our audience does today. So a scene that's proudly explained by our director in such glowing and positive terms is actually the same one that was torn to pieces at our production meeting the day before, as being totally impractical, very dangerous, and completely unaffordable. Perhaps this is going to be the nature of how the project will go. Fear and trepidation, tempered with enormous self-belief, leading to bouts of public confidence fueled by blind optimism, and all regardless of whether there's any realistic chance of achievement. God help us. I'll show you this, apropos of that. It's something I have in my studio that I think Willie Williams from U2 sent me this ages ago, but I have it pinned up, and it's the 6 pages of any project. It's sort of related to what we're talking about today. The 6 stages of any project. 1, enthusiasm. 2, disillusionment. 3, panic. 4, search for the guilty. 5, punishment of the innocent. 6, praise and honor for the non-participants. I love that. Such a great thing and a great reminder of real life. Anyway, here we are. In the afternoon, I meet Hamish Hamilton, our video director, to talk about the project. Hamish explains how Danny really wants to make this live show as if it were a movie, shot with a separate set of cameras from those that provide the usual prosaic coverage of the Olympic opening ceremony. And with this in mind, he and Danny have finally persuaded the IOC to allow them to take over that responsibility. It's been an enormous undertaking to persuade them, and one that will probably add £2 or £3 million to a budget that's already hemorrhaging. But if all goes well, it will be a huge improvement as to how these events have been filmed in the past, and it should make the transmission a much more powerful and emotional piece. But it also means incredible attention to detail for both Hamish and I, as we help to tell Danny's story, not in the intimacy of a theatre or with the control of a film set, but in an enormous stadium of 80,000, played in the round with no backdrops. 18th of January. Onto the stadium in the late afternoon for a series of lighting tests, where we will see our proposed choice of fixtures in action. The first time I've seen the stadium since the construction process has ended, and I have yet to experience the vagaries of the security and bureaucracy involved. It takes nearly 2 hours to get through security and into the park, and involves being issued with 4 different passes, taking 2 buses, having to go through an induction process where we're lectured about health and safety in the stadium, then togged up with helmets, high-vis jackets, metal-tipped boots, gloves and clear spectacles, we all are finally allowed into the venue. The test goes well. The lights are strong and bright, and we have some confidence that the choices we've made in the choices that we've made, as we've designed what will be the largest and most sophisticated lighting system ever put together in this country. We think the decisions and the choices are the right ones. Standing alone in the middle of the vast space, with only the sound of the distant generators and the crackle of walkie-talkies, I'm struck by both the enormity of the task, but also the possibility that we just might create a lighting spectacle on an enormous scale. It's the 23rd of February 2012. Home from Moscow, terribly hungover after the opening night of the new Cirque show there, and straight into a press conference for the closing ceremony. We have a group meeting beforehand where producer Martin Green and the PR department brief us on what to say and, more importantly, what not to say. Of course, the main item on the agenda is how we bluff our way through not having any decent artists yet. We've lost Paul McCartney to Danny and the opening team. Elton is still in a tiz about his contract. The Stones have pretty much said they won't do it. Blur are using the excuse of another gig that night. Sting is still only a possibility, and on and on and on, with no real commitment beyond George Michael, who is now confirmed. George Michael was one of the very first people to confirm, although he wasn't easy, as we go on to hear. All goes well down at the soundstage. Executive producer Stephen Daldry makes a positive, erudite and spirited introduction, and Kim leads off with an overview of the show. Musical director David Arnold, who wrote a lot of the music for the James Bond movies. Musical director David Arnold is brilliant. It'll sound great with your eyes shut and 10 times better with them open, he begins, and everyone laughs with him. But then he goes on to make a huge faux pas by saying that our show will run the gamut from Elgar to Adele. All the journos scribble furiously, and of course the headline in the Evening Standard is Adele to play Olympics closing ceremony. Now we're fucked with her too. 25th of February 2012. Lovely walk with Peter G in the rolling countryside around our house, and he's a delight as ever, full of inappropriate humour, fizzing imagination, and also a supportive friend who's very aware of the pressure that I'm under, both politically and creatively at the moment. But as I had expected all along, he finally says no to the Olympics. Then when we get home, there's a message from Sting, who also turns down the invitation. It's a real disappointment, as we had asked him to perform Fragile, sitting alone in the centre of the stadium with his guitar, projections of the rainforest surrounding him. It would have been a really powerful moment in the show with a powerful message. I have to say, in all these months, as I was desperately trying to get these people to work, and a lot of them friends of mine, so it was a complicated thing. It wasn't just a professional thing. I was asking them to make a real risk, take a punt. But since then, they've all told me in various times and in various ways how they regret the decision, that they could and should have done it. You know? Oh, it's a shame. As it is, we had a great opening ceremony, but I still miss some of them. I still think those moments would have been beautiful. 1st of March 2012, our first programming meeting at the farm in Bath. The whole team has come down from London, including Tim, our other two programmers, Pryderi Baskerville and Andy Voller, and our new assistant to my group, our new assistant Terry Cook, who has the challenging task of appointing, training, and then calling the 36 follow spot operators who will be key to the success of the lighting. We go through each of the show scripts for the 4 different ceremonies, scene by scene. It takes the whole day and points up just what an enormous undertaking this is. One show would be a challenge, but 4 of them, with different directors, each of whom has a different approach, is a huge challenge. But with the confidence of the team in place, it's also thrilling to get a glimpse of how all our planning will one day be turned into something very real. 21st of March 2012. Breakfast meeting at a hotel in Covent Garden to meet the directors of the Brazilian handover segment and to hear their creative pitch. Daniela, their director, is enthusiastic and intelligent, and she explains the 2 main themes of her concept for the ceremony. Rio embraces you, and let's go to Rio is all a lovely treatment with lots of uplifting music, and whenever any of it is played during the presentation on the very loud portable sound system, someone will jump up involuntarily, and then everyone joins them and we all start to samba around the room together. This happens 3 times during the short meeting, and at a dinner that evening with them all, with lots to drink and laughter and joy around the table, it feels such a relief from the angst and seriousness that is now so present at our headquarters at Three Mills. And I so want to do the lighting for the Rio Olympics in 2016 with this group of people. I didn't do the lighting in Rio. It was done by my friend Durham Marenghi. He did a beautiful job. And I sometimes think, you know, doing the Olympics was, of course, a huge high point of my career and for all the people that I was involved with there. But in a way, I think it's quite nice to have done one and tucked it away in your pocket and not have to go through the madness and the chaos and the dramas that they all engender. So I'm jolly pleased that Durham did it and did it so well, and we very much look forward to seeing what they'll do in Japan next year. 29th of May 2012. Pyro and special effects test down at the car park in Three Mills. The really big deal is the cascade of flames falling from a mock-up of one of the Olympic rings that is rigged from a crane high above our heads. The shot from a camera directly below, as seen in our small TV monitor, shows a beautiful cascade of sparks falling from above. The angle distorts the picture, and the sparks seem to float away to the left and right as they pass by the wide-angle lens. It's completely poetic and beautiful, and it's easy to imagine all 5 rings doing the same thing at the finale of the opening act of the show. Barry Dodd, Hamish's lead cameraman, with whom I've worked on many film shoots over the years, stands directly under the shower of falling pyro, wearing full protective clothing with helmet, goggles and heavy gloves, sparks fizzing round his head like a swarm of angry golden bees. 30th May 2012. More bureaucracy today at the temporary pass office, which is hidden incongruously under the steps to the Westfield shopping centre at Stratford Tube Station. It's hopelessly disorganised and full of lots of sullen workers with despondent faces whose passes don't work and have had to come all the way back to have them replaced. I'm photographed and interviewed by a spotty Home Office youth who looks about 16 and makes me promise I've never blown up a public building. He did ask me the question. I'm then issued with a temporary pass that will be valid until just before the Olympics proper begin, at which point we'll be issued with the large laminated round-the-neck passes that will forever be our badges of honour, or in the event of a disaster on the night, a lifelong stigmata. I must get mine out of the cupboard somewhere to show it to you before the week is out. 1st of June. I finally get the valuable laminated badge and go straight into the park through the main entrance. The whole site is quite beautiful inside, still clearly unfinished, but the majority of it done and now crisscrossed in miles of harassed fencing. In the stadium, a giant production office has been set up in the huge space underneath the south stands. It's the very heart of the machine, inhabited by 100 worker bees, all buzzing with a palpable sense of energy and purpose. Rows of desks are lined up underneath a parade of white fluorescent lights, with signs in the ubiquitous 2012 font indicating the various disciplines: lighting, sound, film unit, logistics, operation, health and safety, and so on and on. I have to go through another 2 inductions telling me how to behave in the stadium, where the nearest loo is, and how not to use my mobile phone when walking along, and for which I receive the prize of yet another piece of laminated plastic. Moments later, I'm walking into the production office, deep in conversation on my phone, when I bump right into someone else coming around the corner, also on their mobile. We catch each other's eye with some embarrassment. Should have listened to that briefing. Finally, onto the tube back to Chelsea in time to meet Lucy on the boat and head back to Bath for one of my last weekends at home before I move up to London for the duration. It's a beautiful drive home with the last of the evening light guiding our way west. You know, home was such a strange concept because you get so into a project and home disappears. So these little short trips there were really important to keep my pecker up. Anyway, more tomorrow.